Good morning and welcome to SimWorld today. I am Marsh, back in the driver's seat, joined this Thursday by Maestro. Good morning, Maestro. Great to see you. How are you doing?
Great to see you too, my brother. Great to have you back, and it's wonderful to be here with you.
Well, I want to first say a quick shout out to B-Ron, who was keeping this host seat warm over the last couple weeks. So a massive thank you to him, Maestro, yourself for joining the show multiple times, and everybody else that kept this thing running over the past couple weeks. Much appreciated. That's where we are. That's where we were. Where we are is a heck of a show ahead of us. We're talking SimWorld U, where Tennessee cannot get a win yet again. We're talking an IR issue, but we're going to start with New York, where Aaron Rodgers goes on the Pat McAfee show and claims he has quote-unquote nothing to prove over the last 5 games of the regular season, and he does not intend to be a Jet next season. Maestro, does he have anything to prove?
You know, I want him out of here. I might be a Jets fan, and my shirt might have gave something away here. As a fan, him coming here was like a lot of my brothers and sisters were excited about it. But yes, he does have something to prove, and I'll tell you why. The way he came here, much like Brett Favre came here, much like a couple other quarterbacks came here, they came in with this sort of thing of like, well, you know what? I can turn around one of the worst teams in the league because I'm who I am, except for he was never a part of the team. The way he treated the team, with the way he treated the coaches, the way he treated everybody. And if it's all about him, then yes, you have something to prove. You have done the city dirty. You have done your team dirty. So wherever you go now, whatever you decide to do, best of luck to you. Just glad you're not in the green. But guess what? We lost 2 years now for someone else who was supposed to be there for us and didn't bring anything to the table.
I think it depends on what you define as something to prove. Does he have anything to prove from his standing career-wide and who he is as one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play in the SWFL? No, he's got nothing to prove.
Right.
What he has to prove over the next 5 games, if he's going to play for the next 5 games, is can he be a reliable quarterback when he's in his full 41. He just turned 41, so his full 41 to turn 42-year-old season. That's where I think people are going to be wondering, because he has not looked fantastic. Now, I'm going to also say I don't think the Jets have really looked that fantastic, and I think that in the SWFL, we do a fantastic job of completely overlooking the coach. And if you go back to his time in Green Bay, where obviously he was in his prime, you have Mike McCarthy, and then at the tail end of it, Matt LaFleur. Two of, at the time, Matt LaFleur currently one of the best coaches, and Mike McCarthy was no slouch at all when he was the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. Maybe he's fallen off a little bit in Dallas, but he had some of the best coaching and some of the most stable coaching and an ownership group that he's ever had, and that's really been had by an elite quarterback in the league. He doesn't have that in New York. There's coaching chaos all around him. You relied on Robert Saleh, a first-time head coach and a defensive head coach, to be the point of contact and the leader of this organization with Aaron Rodgers. I don't think this is all Aaron Rodgers' fault. This O-line was not really good. They signed Tyron Smith, who has not been good ever since he left from the Cowboys. This is really not a good football team, so as much as he has not looked good, I would say he doesn't have everything to prove, but I don't also think that he has nothing to prove. I think it's somewhere in the middle of you need to be competent enough, and then if I know I have a good situation, I can bring you in, particularly with good offensive line, so you don't have to move around a lot like you saw in those highlights, constantly moving. Those highlights, Maestro, were not him sitting in the pocket making easy throws. A 41-year-old is really not meant to be scrambling the amount that Aaron Rodgers just was.
So very true, so very true. And you're right on. The Jets have not been a good organization in a long time. There's too much disconnect between ownership, upper management, middle management, lower management, coaches, and then the team.
It is a rough situation. So something to prove, not on a career-wide standpoint, but I think we agree there's something to prove over the last 5 games. I don't know if it's a ton, which as a Jets fan, I don't blame you if you think it is. All right, let's head to another quarterback situation down in Jacksonville, where the Jaguars have put Trevor Lawrence on the IR following the concussive hit that he suffered against the Texans. Let's start with this question. Was it a dirty hit, Maestro?
Yes, you know it was, and I'm going to say this because you kind of bring your history with you in this particular case. Azeez Al-Shaair, you know, he's done it multiple times, and that's why the suspension, because this was up his third or fourth time where he actually got targeted with or got looked at for a dirty hit. But if you look at his career going back to college, that was his rep as a player even then, of being a guy who always hit or came at somebody wrong, or would do something after the echo of the whistle had died out and the play was resetting. And I'm sorry, when you get that reputation, you're going to get looked at a little bit more. In this particular case, yes, he apologized for it. Yes, he reached out to Lawrence. He reached out to Trevor Lawrence, and tried to apologize for it. But it's become your rep because of your actions, and that's what has followed him around, and is going to continue to follow him around even once he comes back after this 3-game suspension without pay.
All right, hold on. I'm just gonna buckle up right here, okay? Because anyone that thinks that wasn't a dirty hit can kick rocks. Particularly Tom Brady, who managed to say it was somehow Trevor Lawrence's fault. STFU, my brother, because not even close. If you are a quarterback or you're going after a quarterback, it is the most obvious sign, and it's universally happening, that quarterbacks are going to slide. And I'm sorry if you're a safety and you're like, well, he might do a fake slide. First off, they can't. That's an illegal move now, thanks to Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh. You can't do an illegal slide. Oh, well, you got to be ready to make a hit. What quarterback outside of Cam Newton in his prime and Jalen Hurts currently is actually going to lower the shoulder on you where you have to not be, like if you're like, oh, I think he's going to slide and he doesn't, that you're going to get trucked. And also, if you're getting trucked by Jalen Hurts or Cam Newton, again, in his prime, obviously not playing right now, but I mean, no one's really going to blame you. That's a middle linebacker playing quarterback. So this whole baloney that this is somehow Trevor Lawrence's fault for sliding like every other freaking quarterback in the entire SWFL does on every single play. I get it on the sideline, and I do have a little bit of frustration with all the late hit penalties that we give to defensive backs and linebackers when they just shove a quarterback out of bounds, even though he's still in bounds. But this was not a late hit, and I think this is the right move for the Jaguars. Truthfully, Trevor Lawrence shouldn't have even been playing in that game. That shoulder injury that kept him out for 2 or 3 games should have ended the season. What the hell do the Jaguars have to play for at this point? It is get the best possible pick you can get and either get an offensive lineman or go get Travis Hunter. That's where the Jaguars should be, and also getting an idea of who your next head coach and general manager are going to be. But to think this is not a dirty hit, you're on some bath salts if you think that's the case.
Absolutely. I love that. I haven't heard bath salts since I was a cop, my man. I like how you brought that in there, because that is so true. And you're absolutely right. When other people are looking at it and, blaming the victim, was really disappointed in hearing that from TB12. Okay, I'll call him that and give him that respect, even though he, whatever. So I'm done. Shut me up, Marsh.
Well, yeah. And also the half-assed apology. That was like not actually apology. It's like, oh, I'm sorry that you thought that when I hit somebody, I try to kill him and then I hope that he's alive. It's like, all right, dude. Yeah, just chill out and just say I'm sorry and move on with your life. All right, who's not going to be apologizing anytime soon are the Miami Heat and Tyler Herro. Tyler Herro drilling 9 threes in a 41-point smashing of the Los Angeles Lakers. You could say this was a big moment for the Miami Heat. I don't think that's the case. This was an embarrassment for the Los Angeles Lakers last night as they fall to 12-10 on the season.
Yes, Marsh, thank you for saying it that way too. The Heat improved their record to 10-10, right? So here you have a team, a 500 team in the league. You have another team in the Lakers that we all know they like to run in half and first gear until it gets close to playoff time. Sometimes that backfires on them. And in the case where you have a team that played a pretend whatever that defense was, and just I won't say refuse to close out on a shooter that's kind of bearing you down in 3, especially in that third quarter when the Miami Heat busted them up for a 16-point win in just the third quarter. You should have known right then and there, okay, if you guys are not going to cover them, I'm just going to keep shooting. And you know the rules, Marsh. You know the rules. Shooters are going to shoot until the game is over and they're on the bus.
Yeah, this is just... I mean, look, as a Warriors fan, I'm gladly going to hold up the Lakers as the bullet takers right now, as the Warriors have a 5-game losing streak, and that's probably going to extend to 6 because it doesn't look like Draymond and Steph are going to play against the Rockets coming up. But this is it's a bit of a mirage from the Lakers over the first 14 games when they're 10-4, and people are like, "Oh wow, Dalton Connect! Why did nobody take Dalton Connect early on? Oh, Austin Reeves, third All-Star. I mean, this team is well positioned." And then they've looked absolutely lackluster over the last 3 weeks, 2 weeks since late November, where they've won just 2 games. They have not looked good, and last night was just this boiling point of a team that has an atrocious defense, who their best player is still, it's not LeBron James anymore, it's Anthony Davis, but LeBron's your second best player, and he has not looked good on the defensive side of the ball. He's putting up huge numbers as an offensive guy, but he's apparently, if he goes 0 for 2 from 3 against Atlanta, or if he doesn't make it, he would become the only player with the most missed threes over a 5-game stretch in SWBA history, because he's been so bad from deep. This has been an awful Lakers season. And again, I mean, we could sit here and be like, oh, let's talk positive about the Miami Heat. There's not really much to talk positive about a 500 team. This is the story of this game is the Lakers' atrocity, as you mentioned, of a defensive unit. And look, JJ Redick is a sweet hire as a head coach. It was a great media piece. He knows how to deal with the media. And I'm not saying he doesn't know how to coach, but this team is just not built to contend because you're reliant on Anthony Davis and LeBron James to stay healthy. I think that's possible. I've been on the side that everyone wanted to talk about all these veterans last season, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, AD, LeBron, that stayed healthy last year. And it's like, oh, well, that's never going to happen again. They were healthy because the league mandated that they had to play 65 games if they were available. Like, this wasn't like these guys were phoning in all the time. I'm not saying injuries don't happen to them, but I'm not on that side. But this team is not built to contend when your third best player is either one of Austin Reeves, Dalton Connect, D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura. If that's who I'm pulling up as number 3, you're in trouble.
Again, right on the point, Marsh. I have feelings about load management, so I'm going to leave that right there, so that way I don't turn into Maestro on you and you have to just basically stop the show, because that would just be wicked rude. But the idea of, as you just so aptly put, the idea of this selective playtime and everything else, it affects the players' mentalities, and when they seem or appear as though they're making conscious decisions to show up. How is that? Was that politically correct enough? That was a good one. Thank you. Conscious decisions to show up or not, depending on when the game is, what network the game is on. We're going to get basketball like that, and it makes it hard to watch the game we love so much.
Sure does. Hard to watch this season has been the Tennessee Volunteers as we switch to SimWorld U. They fall 75-72 to an unbeaten San Diego State team. San Diego State moves to 4-0. Maestro, your takeaway on either side of the bracket here: is the San Diego State undefeated or Tennessee falling to 7-7?
Well, San Diego State has been a low-key mega player producer for a long time, going back to the days of Bill Russell, talking about Tony Gwynn, even a few players that came into the SWFL after that. To sleep on them, to me, I'm just impressed that San Diego State can get people to practice, because if we're in San Diego, the last thing I want to do is see a court, man. I'm sorry, the beach is there. Dude, deal with me, brother. But seriously, on the other side with Tennessee, I think there was an expectation because of what the Volunteers brought to the table. And as a Georgia fan, I'm just going to say this, I'm here for it. But the idea that I think we thought what they were going to bring to the table was going to be something a little bit more special this year. And that number in front of their name is going to go away really quick.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I want to zag a little bit on this whole notion that Tennessee should not be ranked in the top 25. Now, should they be a top 15 team? Again, they're not. They were 22. That's probably, like you said, going to change after this Sunday comes around. But I want to zag for a little bit, because if you look at the SP top 25, let's go with 15, the number 15th ranked team in the country. It's Memphis. You know what their record is? 8-7. How about Utah at number 16, 6-5? UNC at 17, 6-4. I'm just going to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
6-5 Arizona. San Diego State now 4-0. They're going to move up. Virginia Tech 4-2. UCLA 6-6. Tennessee now 7-7. Princeton, who should move up a little bit, at 5-0. New Mexico, who's now 3-1, and Kansas State at 8-6. I'm sorry, but Tennessee is a top 25 team. They're not a number one team. They shouldn't have been as highly ranked as they were before. But if they weren't ranked in the top 5 to begin this season, and now they're sitting in the top 25, where is the vitriol for UCLA in the top 25? Where's our concern about Kansas State in the top 25? Those teams aren't really that much better than Tennessee. But to your point, we had high expectations, and they haven't met them. And that's fine. Teams aren't going to meet these high expectations, but I still think there's a pathway for this Tennessee team to be very dangerous. And if they can get themselves into a good seed in the SEC tournament, and if they're able to put together a decent enough run to get themselves into Hoopsteria, with Trey Turner on this team is very, very dangerous. Now I'm going to go to the other side, San Diego State. They're 4-0. They're doing it with not really a superstar-laden team, but this is a group that looks to me exactly like a team that falls somewhere between 12 and 18. It's really good. They're going to have moments where they beat really good teams, but I'm still going to have my concerns about them if they're playing a top 5 team like Texas or Georgia Tech, who has a bona fide go-to scorer. Their leading scorer right now is Lucina Traore, who comes off the bench averaging 17.8 points or minutes per game to score 13.5. This is not a superstar-laden team. It's a good team that does a lot of things really well. And I think they're a team that's going to be very much in play in the Mountain West, although the Mountain West with the Gonzaga on the top of it is going to be very tough to get through. But I can't buy into all this hate that we've put on Tennessee when we just are very conveniently ignoring all the other teams that are sitting at or just slightly above 500 at the tail end of the top 25.
To be direct about it, Marsh, people don't like to be wrong. That's why top draft picks get a chance to live in the league for so long, no matter how, I'm going to use the T word, so close your children's ears, how much trash they become after a while. We don't look at the fact that they went to a bad situation, as you point out, like with my Jets, with bad situation, bad coaching, team disconnect. We don't look at that. We look at, oh, you were drafted in the first round. You were drafted so high. You should be great. People do not like being wrong. And guess what? It's the same thing goes with writers and the people who do the rankings. They don't like being wrong. They're going to hang on to that as long as they can until all of a sudden they just are forced to say, well, it's their fault that they're not that good. And don't look at the fact that they were given so much at the start. Yeah, that's what it is.
They're not a top 5 team, but I just can't get on the boat of they're not a top 25 team. I think, they're not 50th. There might not be top 25, but if they're not top 25, if you look at the rest of the teams in that range, I'm still going to give Trey Turner the benefit of the doubt over a team that's sitting with the same record or a similar one at the bottom end. All right, let's head to our SimWorld U wrap-up. We had a full slate of action on Wednesday night, so let's dive right into it. Start the tape. We're going to start in Rutgers, where Dylan Harper sends the Tigers to LSU 80-72 win for the Scarlet Knights. In Dayton, a 62-61 win for the Flyers over Wichita State as they continue their hot start to the year. Head over to Purdue, where Florida, after a slow start, starting to put some things together. They get a 66-60 win over the Boilermakers on the road. Xavier, the Musketeers, host a Florida State team that's been up and down. They send them down with a 67-65 win. You want to talk about being down on their luck? The Miami Hurricanes, they lose yet again, this time to number 13th ranked UConn, 72-68. The only sign of life for the Canes there, a close loss. Head to Syracuse, where the Orange remain just beaten with 75-54 loss to the Georgetown Hoyas. No wins in the season for the Syracuse Orange. Head down to Texas, where a 83-65 win for St. Mary's. Talk about a team that maybe deserves to have some ranking credibility. 83-65. South Carolina we go. The Gamecocks beating up on the Oklahoma State Cowboys 79-71. Big game in Texas, as I beg your pardon, at St. John's, where we get a win for the Johnnies. Head over to the Pit, where Notre Dame takes down New Mexico. A big win there, upsetting the number 24 ranked team in the country. All right, that is our recap. We got plenty of action, though, coming up here on a Thursday. We've got number 3 Kentucky going up against Oklahoma at 8 o'clock on ESPN. Oklahoma has been playing competitive. Tough loss there to Alabama earlier this week. And then we've got a top 25 matchup on local broadcasts only. Louisville and Butler, number 11 versus number 12 on the season. That's our show. We're coming back tomorrow with Rick Blaze Maestro. Thank you again for coming on, and thank you all you did to fill in over the last couple weeks. We will keep this train rolling with Rick, and we will get 2 doses of Maestro now moving forward, which I think we're all winners for on that one, Maestro. So appreciate that.
Appreciate you,
all right,
brother.
We'll talk to y'all on Friday. Thanks for tuning in to SimWorld today on SimWorld TV. Only place you can see the game, be the game.
Be the game.
This has been a presentation of SimWorld Sports.